What's up, everyone, and welcome to NFL Nexus. After a season of just pure whiplash-inducing chaos, the Indianapolis Colts did something pretty wild. They pushed all their chips, and I mean all of them, right into the middle of the table. Their 2026 free agency, look, this wasn't some minor renovation. Oh no. This was a high-stakes, all-or-nothing gamble. A definitive, loud and clear answer to a season that went from an absolute dream to a complete and total nightmare. So today, let's break down this incredibly bold strategy. Okay, so to really understand why the Colts were so aggressive this offseason, you have to wrap your head around the sheer shock of their 2025 season. I mean, just picture this. For 10 solid weeks, they were an 8-2 juggernaut. They looked like one of the most dangerous, most exciting teams in the entire league. But then disaster struck. And the dream didn't just fade away quietly. No, it spiraled, it crashed, it burned into a historic 7-game collapse that left the team, the fans, and probably you just wondering, what in the world just happened? And that, right there, that brings us to the core question of this whole thing. When a season implodes that spectacularly, how does the front office even begin to respond? Seriously, what do? Do you play it safe, rebuild slowly, piece by piece? Do you just tear everything down to the studs and start from scratch? Or do you double down on your vision, risks and all? Well, the Colts' 2026 free agency is their emphatic answer to that very question. All right, so here's the game plan for how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to quickly revisit that absolutely chaotic 2025 season. Then we'll dive deep into their high-octane offensive gamble. From there, we'll shift gears and see how they went about rebuilding the defense, look at their crucial depth moves, and then finally, we'll deliver the verdict on this really, really high-variance team. Okay, first up, let's talk about that 2025 campaign, because you simply cannot grasp the logic behind these offseason moves without understanding the fire that they were forged in. I'm telling you, this wasn't just a bad finish to a season, it was a year of the absolute highest highs and the most devastating soul-crushing lows, a true roller coaster. So the season kicked off with what everyone was calling the Daniel Jones Renaissance. I mean, the guy was playing the most efficient football of his entire career. The Colts offense was firing on all cylinders, and they just cruised to an 8-2 record. So believing they were legitimate contenders, the front office went all in. They made a blockbuster trade for all-pro corner Sauce Gardner, which was a clear Super Bowl or bust signal to the entire league. And then Week 14 happened. Jones goes down with a season-ending Achilles injury, and just like that, the entire dream imploded. A 7-game losing streak followed, ending the season at a dismal 8-9, completely out of the playoffs, and staring at a massive crossroads. A collapse like that, it forces a choice. And instead of retreating and playing it safe, the Colts responded with a clear, aggressive, and, let's be honest, an incredibly risky gamble. They chose to double down on an explosive, high-octane offensive philosophy, and they committed staggering amounts of money to make that very specific vision a reality. And look, this wasn't just some little playbook tweak. This was a total philosophical commitment. The Colts are now, by design, a dedicated vertical offense. So what does that mean? It means they are prioritizing home run plays, those huge, long-distance bombs that stretch the field and take the top off the defense. It's the opposite of a dink-and-donk, possession-based attack. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy that lives and dies by the big play, and it demands a very specific skill set from its quarterback and its receivers. And no single decision illustrates this new identity more clearly than what they did at wide receiver. They actually traded away Michael Pittman Jr., who is a classic possession receiver, right? He's known for his reliability, for moving the chains on third down, and in his place they elevated Alec Pierce, a pure, unadulterated vertical threat and a game-changing deep ball specialist, into the role of their undisputed #1 receiver. This one choice, right here, defined their entire offensive strategy going forward. And oh boy, did they back up that choice with a massive financial commitment. We're talking a 4-year, $114 million extension for Alec Pierce. Now think about that. This wasn't just, retaining a good player. This was anointing him as the cornerstone of their entire offensive philosophy, making him one of the highest paid wide receivers in the entire league. That's a huge bet. So why bet the house on Pierce? Why that much money? Well, the numbers, they tell a pretty compelling story of elite, specialized production. He posted over 1,000 yards receiving, which is great, but more importantly, for the second consecutive year, he led the entire NFL in yards per catch. That isn't a fluke, folks. That is a rare, field-tilting skill set that the Colts believe is the absolute key to unlocking their entire system. But of course, to pilot this supercharged vertical attack, you need your quarterback. So they double down. Again, the team recommitted to Daniel Jones, signing him to a 2-year deal worth a cool $88 million. And that move signals that in their high-stakes system, continuity at the QB position is absolutely paramount. Now, this is the other side of that big gamble. The upside? Well, before his injury, Jones was, statistically, the NFL's most efficient quarterback. He proved he could not only survive but actually thrive in this complex system. But the risk? Woo! It's a massive price tag for a quarterback coming off a catastrophic Achilles tear. The Colts are basically betting that if, and it's a big if he stays healthy, his complete familiarity with the offense will unlock its full explosive potential. But hey, we all know an explosive offense can be completely undermined by a leaky defense, right? So after losing key veterans like edge rusher Kwity Paye, the front office turned to a much more, let's call it a surgical approach on the other side of the ball. They focused on smart, targeted signings to plug very specific gaps. So their defensive rebuild, it was really built on 3 core ideas. And those ideas are personified by 3 key signings. First, you've got linebacker Akeem Davis-Gaither for system familiarity. Then you've got defensive lineman Derek Nunati for raw run-stopping power. And finally, you bring in edge rusher Arden Key for some much-needed durability. Now, this signing of Akeem Davis-Gaither, it's just a brilliant plug-and-play solution. You see, he previously thrived under the Colts defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo back when they were together in Cincinnati. That kind of familiarity, it just eliminates any learning curve. But he's not just a system fit either. The guy's coming off a career-high 117 tackle season, proving that his production absolutely matches the scheme. Just a smart move. Remember that 7-game collapse we talked about? Well, a porous run defense was a primary culprit. Teams were just running all over them. So Derek Nottie is the direct response to that problem. He's a massive, 317-pound, 3-time Super Bowl champion who was brought in for one reason and one reason only, to clog up the middle of that line. The idea of pairing him with Grover Stewart, that is designed to create an immovable wall and make the Colts stout against the run once again. Okay, now the move from veteran Tyquan Lewis to Arden Key on the edge, it really boils down to one crucial factor: availability. Now look, while both guys are effective, Key's production in terms of sacks and quarterback hits is significantly higher. But the real story, the number that jumps off the page, is games missed. Lewis's 45 missed games over 8 seasons, that created a persistent hole on the defense that the Colts just couldn't afford to leave open any longer. You know, it's an old NFL cliche for a reason, because it's absolutely true. The most important ability is availability. And Tyquan Lewis, for all his talent and all his grit, he simply wasn't on the field enough. So the move for a guy like Arden Key, it wasn't just about upgrading pure talent. It was a necessary business decision to ensure that talent would actually be on the field every single Sunday. All right, so with the big star players in place, the attention then turned to the foundation of the roster. And this is where good teams become great teams. The Colts focused on securing those crucial depth pieces. You know, the less glamorous signings that often make all the difference over a long, grueling season. And these, right here, these are the glue signings that really hold a team together. You've got Michael Clemens, who provides a physical, rotational pass rusher. Drew Ogletree comes back as a reliable safety valve for his quarterback. Colby Wooden adds some young, promising depth to the defensive line rotation. And then you have Jonathan Owens, who brings that veteran versatility to the secondary and, importantly, to special teams. And speaking of Jonathan Owens, his signing in particular adds a little more than just on-field depth. He definitely brings that veteran savvy to the back end of the defense. But his marriage to the one and only Olympic champion Simone Biles brings a really unique level of energy and national attention to the team and the city. It's kind of fun. Now, before we get to our final verdict on this whole strategy, if you're enjoying this breakdown, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button for more deep dives from NFL Nexus. And hey, go ahead and like this video and drop a comment below. I really want to know what you think of these moves. Also, a quick note, we have some really cool coloring books available that are perfect for kids and adults. You can check them out using the link in the description or the QR code on your screen now. It's a great way to support the channel. Okay, let's get back to it. So when you put all these pieces together, the massive offensive contracts, the targeted defensive repairs, the crucial depth signings, a very clear and, like I said, a very high-variance picture starts to emerge. So what's the final verdict? What's the takeaway from the Colts' incredibly bold strategy? I think this quote right here just perfectly encapsulates the team's new identity. They have consciously traded reliable possession for game-breaking, heart-stopping explosiveness. Their vision is crystal clear. They have prioritized the vertical passing game above all else, and they want to be the fastest, most explosive team on the field, basically daring the rest of the league to try and keep up.
And that, my friends, leaves us with the ultimate question. If Daniel Jones stays healthy, and this incredibly high-octane gamble pays off, the Colts could legitimately be one of the most dangerous teams in all of football. But if it fails, if Jones gets hurt again, or the offense just sputters, the massive contracts and lack of high draft picks could set this franchise back for years. So, is this a Super Bowl formula, or is it a franchise-altering mistake? The answer, one way or another, arrives in 2026.